Yeah, so I don't know about the rest of the audience, but I'm at a point in my entertainment consuming mindset, especially as we're about to round up the end of our 2024 Hollywood filler arc, and with this being the sixth, no, maybe the seventh, who cares, I'm not looking that up, entry into the Sonyverse Spiderman universe without a Spider-Man. I'm just here for the ride at this point. And while sure, at the same time, I still feel that same sense of emptiness inside of my heart in the place where film integrity should be after leaving the theater another 2.5 hour commitment later and $20 short, wondering, I definitely could have just bought some popcorn and watched some YouTube in the lobby for a more engaging and entertaining time than I just had. I would still say that the most important thought that came to mind in those classic parking lot conversations that you have with your mates after every single movie was that this was definitely not worse than Madam Web, and I could damn near argue that Kraven the Hunter might be the best Sonyverse Spider-Man movie without a Spider-Man the studio has to offer for whatever that's worth. Sorry to the 72 Morbius fans out there. And while that doesn't mean that Kraven the Hunter wasn't still riddled with the same Toontown level issues that have plagued this universe from its first concept idea all the way back with Venom 1, like the phone checking pacing problems, any form or semblance of a cohesive narrative, character writing that genuinely makes you laugh out loud in the movie theater, especially when it comes to the antagonist character writing. And while this has been an issue that has been plaguing all of Hollywood character writing right now, the villain character arcs, motivations, and character depth in the Sonyverse Spider-Man universe without a Spider-Man could and should be studied across universities for generations to come for the embarrassing lack of effort, competence, and integrity when it comes to what was being displayed on my screen. Not a single memorable character in the resume. Truly a filthy piece of work. Not to mention CGI that half of the target demographic for these movies would expect to see from a movie from 2002. Looking at you, CGI from Attack of the Clones, dialogue sequences that match that feeling from 2002. Again, looking at you, dialogue sequences from Attack of the Clones, and just a general lack of world building, stake setting, and meaningful exposition sequences that at least try to keep you, the audience, engaged with a otherwise shit on a screen that you've been asked to ingest. Oh yeah, and did I forget to mention that there is no Spider-Man? That'll definitely do your universe in. But in my opinion, for what the majority of the other Sonyverse Spider-Man movies without a Spider-Man had been lacking, that truly made the audience experience more and more agonizing to watch with each new entry than it had to be, and an aspect of Hollywood that I believe we, the audience, have gotten away from in our most lack of creativity Hollywood era that we find ourselves in right now. Was the movie entertaining? And for the most part, what Kraven the Hunter might have lacked in regards to actual important movie making aspects that the majority of studios and audiences alike look at, like character writing, narrative structure, or setting up goals and motivations for the events that I'm actually about to watch unfold. In a seemingly last-ditch Hail Mary attempt to get me and the 10% of the audience that is still along for this crazy ride, Kraven the Hunter decides to forego all of those aspects and at least attempts to give you a halfway entertaining, high-octane, and in-your-face Aaron Taylor Johnson resume builder for other studios to show that he could quite possibly be a leading man in this industry. Mixed in with some of the best practical running scenes that would make Tom Cruise even crack a cheeky grin, and a movie that takes itself just seriously enough for me to take my main character seriously, but just corny enough that I can still laugh out loud at the insanity playing out on my screen. And in reality, you just gotta respect that. But in the same breath, I feel like I've already put way too much effort into halfway selling this movie as not shit on a screen, more than the movie tried to do for itself, so let's go ahead and talk. Shout out to this movie because this might be the simplest, most straightforward narrative to come out of the Sonyverse Spider-Man universe without a Spider-Man, and while that's more than likely because it was probably written by AI, still definitely makes my job a lot easier. Kraven the Hunter follows the origin story of Sergey, the character in name, and his brother Dmitri. How accurately is up to you, the audience, seeing how I do not know the comic origins because I cannot read, and I do not have a PS5. After a hunting trip gone wrong that leaves Kraven on the brink of death following a lion attack, only to be saved with magical spirit water by a passing girl at the time named Calypso, who I would also just assume is another comic book character that the story has no bother with to flesh out, Kraven takes the chance at his second life to become a hunter himself, crafting a list of baddies that he deems worthy and taking them out no questions asked. But when his life of hunting starts to hit close to home and leads to the eventual capture of his brother Dmitri by a rival hunting group led by the Rhino, who does admittedly have his own half-assed backstory and motivation in order to take down the Kraven family due to the disrespect that he received earlier in the movie from Papa Kraven, Sergey now finds himself in a race against time, other hunters, and deep in a family-born scheme in order to save his brother from the Rhino, But will Kraven have the strength necessary in order to defeat a prey unlike any other he's faced and save his brother from a life that he has never wanted? Or will the deep roots of the Kravenov family deem too much to overcome for such a simple hunter? Don't get me wrong, this isn't going to be an end of the Sonyverse Spider-Man universe without a Spider-Man video because, to be honest, I have been hearing conflicting reports about all of that anyway, which is kind of crazy. And I'm sure one day I would love to do a full-on Slander Awards episode dedicated to that small sliver of our oversaturated superhero market. Because for all of the faults that this idea of a Spider-Man universe without a Spider-Man was, I'm pretty sure if I average everything out, I'm pretty sure that we still had a better run entertainment-wise than the DCU. Not financially, of course. Definitely not financially. To a point where it wasn't even comical anymore. It was just more sad and a true waste of your money, time, brain cells, and self-respect. A universe that you could say was hindered by a myriad of problems throughout its decades-long. The Spider-Man universe without a Spider-Man has only been around for 7 years and we're already dead? Yeah, I guess that checks out. From problems such as studio interference, incredibly cringy dialogue sequences, and ad-libs due to the second grade level writing, Toontown level acting that I'm sure for the majority of these movies were done in one take, some more than others, editing choices that make the Fast and Furious franchise look like Oscar winners, and again, which I don't really understand why this is becoming the norm in Hollywood, just the simple lack of direction when it comes to your own pitched idea. It is genuinely aneurysm-inducing. But it is fair to say that there are no winners here. There is no demand for a Sony Spiderverse universe without a Spider-Man. There's honestly no demand for a completely separate Sony Spiderverse universe besides for, I guess, the completion of the Miles Morales trilogy. But does that even count? And while sure, there were definitely some okay aspects like the high-octane action sequences, and there were a couple of shots in this movie that were actually pretty solid, who really wins here? Is it us, the audience? That's obviously not the case. Is it the people that were involved? The writers, the directors? Again, definitely not. Is it the studio?
No, what the heck, I'll laugh anyway.
Does Sony just magically expect us, the audience that they're catering to bend over backwards for a relatively niche character from an industry who, in the past half-decade, has had a pretty solid track record of shoving shit down our throat and expecting a 5-star review? Again, I do not think so. So there are obviously no winners here, and what truly makes it so much worse is that Sony obviously is a studio that does not care about the properties that they own and are strictly out there for the reason of retaining the rights to an entity that they do not care about. GG's to the Sonyverse Spider-Man universe without a Spider-Man. It was definitely a run. So in our 2024 Hollywood filler arc, Kraven is the very definition of a Toontown movie, even in a year that featured 3 Sonyverse Spider-Man movies without a Spider-Man, which should definitely be illegal and outlawed in Hollywood going forward. Of course, as always, I want to thank you guys for watching the video, and if you enjoyed, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. I'll leave a link to my Twitter and Letterboxd in the description just in case you want to go check that out. Again, I want to thank you for watching the video. Make sure to like and subscribe. If you did enjoy, why not click on more while you're at it? Otherwise, that is all the words I got for you today.